Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct tonight from Black Facts Headquarters Central. Yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy. We're here right now. We hope you're kind of needy. We're not going to be too pleady, but we will ask you to do a couple little things for us. If you could, give us a like or a thumbs up if you're looking on YouTube, and then go ahead and subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel. There's a link below. Meanwhile, we're going to return to our story of the month. The story titled Never Caught, of Ona Judge, an enslaved African woman who escapes from the clutches of George and Martha Washington. That's right, she escaped from the clutches of those slave trading demons and was able to recover some measure of freedom like her ancestors before her had before they were captured themselves. So let's go ahead and start off with the proverb for today. Proverb for today is, okay, all right. Oh, we did this one yesterday. Okay. One about Bahati. Bahati means luck. Let's see, what else do we have today? Well, okay, we'll do, here we go. I got a good one here. Usipoziba ufa utajenga ukuta. Usipoziba ufa utajenga ukuta. You can either seal up a small crack today or wait till the whole wall falls down and then just build a new one. Your choice, whichever you think is best. Don't let me influence you. Meanwhile, moving on to chapter. Oh, we got to finish this chapter here. We didn't finish this chapter last night. So let's finish this one up. Excuse me. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back to the top of this page here, and we're going to start from there. I'm not sure which page exactly I left off on. So we might end up rereading a page, but we'll be able to finish off this whole piece tonight. So the only way so right now Ona is in the live free or die state, which is definitely a state of mind that many people in New Hampshire still living with today. Live free or die, motto of the state of New Hampshire. So she's living up there, and she's been discovered, and George Washington knows she's there, and he sends somebody to bring her back, but so far that hasn't happened. We'll see if it will. The only way Joseph could see Ona Judge returning to the Washingtons was if she were eventually set free. Eventually set free. Boldly, Joseph told Oliver, who would then write to the president, that gradual emancipation, that is, the gradual freeing of the slaves, was the best path for the president to take. In other words, the customs collector Joseph Whipple dared to tell the first president of the United States that he should consider abandoning slavery and he should start with Ona Judge. Joseph didn't stop there. He continued to write that the president should be reminded that attitudes in New Hampshire were changing every single day, and that fewer and fewer other people of New Hampshire supported slavery. Furthermore, neither white nor black New Hampshire citizen were likely to support the actions of a president who was breaking his own laws. Free blacks would do anything they could to keep Ona and fugitives like her, from returning to slavery. Joseph wrote, "The popular opinion here in favor of universal freedom has rendered it difficult to get them back to their masters." Joseph ended his letter with a polite request to be taken out of the whole affair. Given what he knew from meeting directly with Ona, that there was no way on God's green earth that she was going to return to slavery on her own, Joseph thought the president should hire a lawyer who should then contact New Hampshire's own state attorney to figure out how to handle this troubling situation. In other words, if George and Martha wanted Ona back, they were going to have to follow the law and consequently expose themselves to the growing anti-slavery sentiment in New Hampshire. Oliver Wolcott received Joseph Whipple's letter in Philadelphia. He must have read it in a state of shock. It was rare to have someone be so candid with the President of the USA. Then Oliver turned the letter over to George. It's safe to say George was not happy. More accurately, it could be said he went ballistic right through the roof. If he'd been a rocket, he'd have been the first man on the moon. He picked up a pen, cut out the middleman, Oliver, and began a long letter to Joseph Whipple himself. The date was November 28. Ona had been gone for 6 months. To enter into such a compromise with her is totally uncool. For however well disposed I might be to a gradual abolition or even to an entire emancipation of that description of people, if the latter was in itself practicable at this moment, it would neither be politic or just to reward unfaithfulness from the likes of Ona Judge with a premature preference. End quote. That part of his letter reflected George Washington's own conflicted feelings about slavery. When combined with letters George Washington wrote to Tobias Lear and the Marquis de Lafayette, it is clear that he was increasingly uneasy about human bondage. At the same time, Ona had clearly crossed the line. She had disrespected him and his lovely wife. He was offended by the very idea of negotiating with a slave. In his math, Ona's conduct was indefensible, and he would not reward her bad behavior with the promise of freedom. Instead, he told Joseph to assure Ona that she will be forgiven by her mistress. And she will meet with the same treatment from me that all the rest of her family, which is a very numerous one, shall receive. On the surface, this seems like George was telling Joseph to tell Ona that everything would be the same as before. This was really a way to threaten all of Ona's relatives at Mount Vernon with pain and suffering because of Ona's actions. This was the only way George could negotiate with Ona. If she didn't come back, her family could be hurt. George wasn't finished. He said that if Ona continued to refuse to return voluntarily, Joseph should place her on a vessel headed for Alexandria or the new federal city. In Washington, wait a minute. Oh, in other words, directly back into the jaws of slavery. He did not want Joseph to use extreme force because this could excite a mob or riot. He was too close to the end of his presidency for a scandal like that. Indeed, Joseph should use discretion. If done properly, Ona could come back to the Washingtons fairly quickly. This was something he wished for his wife. He wrote, who was desirous of receiving her again. George ended the letter with a statement that was both strange and 100% false. Ooh, another lie. We had vastly, rather, okay, we had vastly rather she should be sent to Virginia than brought to this place, Philadelphia, as our stay here will be but short, and as it is not unlikely that she may, from the circumstances I have mentioned, be in a state of pregnancy. Yeah, no preggers here. No one has any idea why George believed that Ona was pregnant. She wasn't. Perhaps George was more dramatically inclined than he seemed, or maybe he still could not conceive of a world where a young woman would want to leave his happy home. So much that she risked everything, including the well-being of her family, to get away. As far away as she could. There's one final possibility. We do know that because Ona was considered property, any child of hers would also become the property of the Washingtons. If she was pregnant, Ona's value would increase, and she and her unborn child would be worth more money, more money, more money, more money, more money, more money. Of course, this is speculation of an alternative fact. There was no pregnancy. Joseph must have read and reread this letter for days on end. It took him almost a month to respond. In his reply, dated December 22nd, he was precise with his words. He needed to convey that he had worked very hard to protect the president's reputation, while at the same time attempting to get Ona to return to Mount Vernon. Excuse me. Without abiding by the regulations of the Fugitive Slave Act. In other words, he wrote that he had done what he could to help George break his own law without letting the public know. He agreed half-heartedly to pursue Ona as long as there was no public attention given to the matter. And then Joseph closed his letter with an extraordinary piece of writing, original writing. Wait a minute. No. And then Joseph closed his letter with an extraordinary piece of political advice for the most respected man in the country. Joseph suggested that gradual emancipation of all slaves would be the only way to stop the tide of fugitives. Slave owners like George Washington could prevent this growing evil. All they had to do was free their slaves. It's hard to imagine the relief Joseph must have felt when he sent the letter off to the president. George Washington never wrote back. Perhaps he accepted that his influence over the customs collector was far less than he had anticipated. The United States was still very young, growing up. The conflicts between the states in the North and the South were not going away. George Washington had served his country for decades, but he was resigning from the presidency and public life. He had to also acknowledge that the country, like any child, would continue to grow and change, whether he liked its decisions or not. Right now, George had to put country first before the desires of his wife and before his own anger at his former wife. He had to turn his attention to the peaceful transfer of power from himself to Jake. The peaceful transfer of power from himself to John Adams, his Massachusetts-born president, who had just weeks before narrowly won the first contested American presidential election against Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Pinckney, and Aaron Burr. Ooh, got a Burr up his. No wonder he's such a good writer. And Ona Judge was safe for now. Okay, so if you haven't got this book yet, you might want to go out and get it. We haven't quite got to the end. We got a few more chapters left. We might make it to the end if we're lucky. In the meanwhile, you know what time it is. It's time for us to go ahead and sign out. While you dine out, we're going to sign out. All we need you to do is give us a like if you're looking at us on Facebook, a thumbs up if you're seeing us on the tube, and if you like what you see and what you hear, go ahead and make a small recurring donation, $5 a month for 1 year. That's hardly any money at all. You won't even notice that it's gone. If you all could do that, we'd really appreciate it. Even some of you older viewers, if you could do that as well, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Peace out without a doubt. Look for us tomorrow at noon. Don't be a loon. Be here at noon.